Hi, and welcome to DrupalBrief. This is an AI-generated summary of another video, podcast, or blog post. If you want to learn more about what's being discussed here, then please go check out the source. This podcast is produced by the team at DrupalForge. DrupalForge is the new #1 open-source development and hosting platform. It has all the functionality of the expensive platforms, but at very affordable prices. If you're looking for a new hosting provider, contact us for a demo before you get locked in. Okay, that's it. Make sure to click subscribe, and here we go.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really plunging into quite a fascinating snapshot of a major open source ecosystem. Got it straight from the source. Okay, let's unpack this. So what we have here is issue 688 of the Weekly Drop. It's a newsletter that landed in inboxes June 26th, 2025. And it promises the best Drupal news and links. Honestly, looking through it, it really does give you a feel for the pulse of the community.
That's right. And our job today isn't just, reading the headlines. We're really here to pull out the important bits, the real nuggets of knowledge, to understand what's shaping the future of web development, at least within this Drupal world, and maybe find those moments, the things hidden in what look like just standard updates or community notes, getting you informed fast.
Exactly. And it's kind of wild, the sheer range of stuff in just this one issue. We're talking core software updates, obviously, but also like cutting edge tech like AI integration. Then there's community elections, practical tips for developers. It really is like a mini conference, just in audio form, all pulled from what's happening right now. So kicking things off, the big news headlines shouting about Drupal 11.2.0 being available, that's a pretty significant update for the core platform, yeah. But the announcement that really jumped out at me was this: Drupal core adopting the Gen admin theme to replace Claro. Now, for someone who actually uses Drupal day to day, like an admin or an editor, how big a deal is this change, practically speaking?
Oh, that's a really good question. Because you're right, it sounds maybe superficial, but it's not just a lick of paint. The Gen admin theme adoption, well, it's a major decision driven by the community, and it tackles that classic open source challenge. How do you push forward with new stuff without, making users uncomfortable? This shift, honestly, it could be one of the biggest UX leaps for Drupal in years. It directly hits that clunky admin perception people sometimes have, makes it more modern, more intuitive. It's clearly a response to feedback, which is, critical for keeping people using the platform long term.
Right, that makes sense. And that focus on user experience seems to carry over into another big thing, getting traction. The Drupal AI initiative. The newsletter talks about 2 webinars. One's a free series with the European Commission, which sounds interesting, and another sort of welcome webinar with the AI leadership team. This feels like more than just bolting on a feature. What's the real strategic play here for Drupal, especially partnering with someone like the European Commission?
Well, connecting those dots, that EC partnership is, I think, incredibly significant. It really tells you something. It says AI isn't just a buzzword here. It's becoming or aiming to become a foundational piece, especially for bigger projects, maybe government applications. It hints at potentially much deeper integrations. Think intelligent agents, machine learning baked into content management, development workflows, automating complex tasks, maybe personalizing experiences in ways we haven't seen yet in Drupal. It definitely shows a forward-thinking, strategic push. They're not waiting around on AI.
Interesting. So while Drupal's pushing ahead with 11.2 and AI, the newsletter also spends quite a bit of time on, a persistent challenge. Drupal 7. You see a sponsor mentioned Tag 1 D7ES, offering security and compatibility updates for Drupal 7 sites, even though it's past end of life. And articles like, not sure what to do with your Drupal 7 site, start here, and another one on security under extended support. It's pretty clear a lot of people are still using these older versions. Does that ever become like a drag on innovation, supporting the old stuff? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a really insightful point. It sort of stress tests the whole open source model, doesn't it?
Yeah.
On one hand, you have this continued dedicated support for Drupal 7. It's not just a service, it shows you need that pragmatic flexibility for platforms that stick around for a long time in enterprises. You can't just, pull the rug out from under a huge user base that needs stability. But you're absolutely right, it does create a tension, a real resource question. Where does the community focus its energy? Supporting the old or building the new? Drupal's approach seems to be this extended support, often commercially driven, which sort of lets the core innovate faster while still providing a safety net. It's complex, definitely a balancing act.
Okay, yeah, a balancing act. And it's not just the code balancing things. The governance itself seems active. The newsletter highlights the 2025 Drupal Association board elections. Lots of candidates. Maya Schaefer, Alexander Varwick, Carlos Ospina, J. Matthew Saunders, Matt Glaman, Vladimir Rudikoff, Will Huggins. With so many people stepping up, what does that tell us about the health of the community's governance structure?
Well, that high level of engagement, it's actually a really positive sign. It highlights just how robust the democratic governance can be in open source. The Drupal Association leadership, they're crucial, right? Well, they set strategic direction, handle funding, help the community grow. Seeing so many candidates, it's like a mini democracy in action. It shows the community is actively shaping its own future through these transparent elections. It signals a healthy, engaged community taking ownership.
Right, ownership. And moving from governance to maybe broader thinking, the article section had some intriguing titles, things like the open source superhighway and the midpoint shift, navigating the turning point in enterprise web projects. Sounds like bigger picture stuff about open source's role. And tying back to what we discussed, what Drupal AI means for government, another specific angle on AI.
Yeah, what's fascinating there is how those articles sort of provide the meta-narrative for all the specific updates, the open source superhighway. Well, that likely frames open source not just as an option, but as critical infrastructure now, essential. And the midpoint shift. That suggests maybe we're at a key turning point in how big companies use web tech. Maybe open source is becoming the default, not the alternative. You combine that with the specific government interest in Drupal AI, it paints a picture, doesn't it? A picture of a mature, adaptable platform stepping up to meet really complex, high-stakes needs, not just a niche thing anymore.
Definitely sounds like it. And of course, for the developers listening, there's always practical stuff too. Titles like Mastering OOP and Solid Principles in PHP with Drupal examples, pretty deep. And Drupal Deployment Confidence Part 2, Composer Validate. Plus those core improvements like the system-based split into more conditionally loaded libraries. That sounds technical. For those of us not coding daily, can you maybe quickly break down why something like Composer Validate or that system-based split actually matters to, say, the average site owner or user?
Absolutely. Let's take Composer Validate. For a developer, it sounds technical, but really it's like a crucial pre-flight check for your code's dependencies. It makes sure all the building blocks are correct before you deploy. Think of it as preventing headaches down the line, fewer oops moments when you go live. As for the system-based split, yeah, sounds internal, but it's actually a big win for performance and flexibility. Basically, it means Drupal only loads the code it absolutely needs for a particular page or function instead of loading a bigger chunk every time. So sites get faster, leaner, and for developers, it makes the system more modular, easier to work with. Both these things show this underlying commitment to building websites that are robust, performant, and crucially maintainable over time.
It really is such a dynamic ecosystem. This deep dive, it's definitely uncovered a lot of layers, hasn't it? For those core technical steps like Drupal 11.2 and that Gin theme adoption, which sounds pretty strategic, to the really exciting AI integrations, the vital community governance through elections, and even that practical security for older versions. So if we're looking at all this, what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Yeah, if you connect all those dots,
Yeah.
the community making a bold choice on a new admin theme like Gin, these ambitious AI plans reaching into government, and even that ongoing dedicated support for Drupal 7 users. It really illustrates that constant, intricate balance that an open source project has to manage. It's about pushing forward with innovation, absolutely, but also maintaining stability, which is crucial for so many users, and doing it all through community-driven progress. It's honestly a testament to the adaptability, the resilience of a platform built this way by a global community. And it means, critical thinking is pretty essential when you're navigating this kind of rich, fast-moving information landscape.
Exactly. So given these shifts, we've seen the real emphasis on AI, especially in government, the adoption of a whole new admin theme, the robust support for older versions still. What does all that tell us about the long-term resilience, the adaptability of a platform like this, built by a global community? And maybe, what's the next big turning point for enterprise web projects, building on what we're seeing right now? Something to think about. We'd encourage you maybe explore those concepts mentioned, like the open source superhighway or that midpoint shift in enterprise web projects. See what you find. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Okay, we're done. To close off this podcast, I just wanted to remind you that this brief was a fully AI-generated summary, and we take no credit for the original content. If you want to learn more, then check out the source. This podcast is produced by the team at Drupal Forge. Drupal Forge is the new #1 open-source development and hosting platform. It has all the functionality of the expensive platforms, but at very affordable prices. If you're looking for a new hosting provider, contact us for a demo before you get locked in. And if you like this podcast, hit subscribe, post a link on social media, and recommend it to 2 friends. That's it. See you next time. Bye for now.